Good evening. Welcome to the June Tipton Community School Corporation Public Works Session. Tonight, we're going to kick it off with a presentation by Melissa Guffey from Recreations Insights. Yep, thank you. Of course. Thank you for coming.
There you go. Now you can hear me. Sorry. You have a very large playground, and one of the evaluations I looked at is, does it need to be that large? Because when you look at a size of that playground, you're also having to then be able to provide safety surfacing for that entire playground area. And with looking at the amount of kids that are playing out there, I really think that you revise this, that you only capture 2/3 of the playground space needed to be able to provide a very ample playground that would be sufficient for your student body that's out there playing at the time. So we looked at doing this in 2 phases, possibly 3, depending on funding sources. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure was that we had a lot of inclusivity and a lot of play pieces that people of all abilities would be able to interact with and play with. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they would maybe decide to climb up on something, even if they physically could do that, but they would be able to interact within the structure as well, too. So I have some videos. I'm going to show you that and some imagery. So in phase one, we were looking at the southern portion of the playground area, which is highlighted in that blue area. So this would be where we would do our universal carousel, our supernova, and then we would also introduce a new 4-bay swing structure. Your current swings that are out there, they're just at end of life, and they just need to be replaced. And so I'm looking to do a 4-bay swing, and we'll look at the amount of kids that can be playing on that as well, too. And then being able to provide a unitary playground surfacing so that if somebody was in a wheelchair or an assisted device, that they would be able to wheel out onto the playground in this portion of it and be able to get on or interact with the structures that are out there. So 2 of the bays would be captured in that port in place, which is a unitary play surfacing that you guys already have, like on the preschool area, would be part of this phase of phase one. Phase two and phase three, depending on, again, how that works out funding-wise, you could look to do that as one large phase or then break it up into that two in phase three. So within that, we would be looking at, it's D would be the mega deck, upper deck, that's the structure, plus capturing the rest of that port in place in another third up. And then the phase three would be the big giant climbing structure that you see that's number E. It's the Explorer Dome. And then you have an existing structure, the parkour structure that we plan to just keep in place and use because the kids enjoy it. It's not something that is at end of life like some of the other structures that are out there right now. So we look to keep that structure. I just can't show that in my imagery, so I just have that as a placeholder for the existing structure. And looking to reduce, again, that playground footing site. So you have a current tree that is there with a funny little concrete curb that's in the middle of the playground. I highly recommend that we just go ahead and make that kind of the cap of your playground area, and then be able to then look at maybe sodding the portion of it that's north of that, so it's an open turf for the kids to be able to play. One of the things that you can look at that as a value is that now when teachers are out there watching, or your playground people that are out there watching the kids, is that maybe the kids will be a little bit closer in that area as well as the hardscape, so visualization of the kids will be a little bit easier than if they're playing all the way down on the south fields as well, too. Any questions so far? Let's take a look at the playground pieces. So the first structure that we're looking at, and it's closest to the screen, is our universal carousel. This is a deck, a rigid deck that is at the playground surfacing of the port in place so that kids can transition very easily onto the surfacing, onto the deck from the surfacing. It will rotate and spin. I'm going to show you a video of it here in a second, as well as the Supernova. I love the Supernova because it introduced a little bit of risk play into the playground, but it's done in such a way that it's low to the ground. Kids will be able to sit on it, lay on it, stand on it, walk on it, and spin. And it gravitates the kids to want to come and play on it. I always say that it's prime real estate when kids are playing on that structure. They don't want to give up their spots because they like to be able to have that challenge, whether it's them playing against their friends or if they're just figuring out how many times they can stay up on the structure without falling down. And if you look in the background, we have the swing sets. I have the basket swing. It is one of my favorite structures within our swing seats that we can offer because up to 6 kids can be on this structure. They can sit in it, they can lay in it, they can stand in it. But if somebody is in a wheelchair, they can actually be able to either sit in it or lay down on it, and someone can be next to them. So it is truly inclusive by nature. Your physical therapist will also really encourage the kids to be able to utilize this as well too. I always, my background, I was a pediatric nurse at Riley for 15 years. So I look at when kids are in a recumbent seat or in a wheelchair, there's a lot of pressure points that are put onto their lower portions of their bottom. And so we can reduce that by them being able to sit in or to lay in this basket swing. It actually is a rope. So it actually flexes a little bit. So it's not a rigid platform that the kids are sitting on. So one of my favorite. And then obviously looking at the other seats that we can do, the bay that's next to that is a little difficult to see with the kids obstructing the view, but it's actually our duo seats. So we can allow 2 kids to be sitting on one seat. They sit across from each other and swing back and forth. So instead of that bay only holding 2 kids with a belt seat, it can actually hold up to 4 kids in a belt seat. So just between those 2 bays, I've got 10 kids that can be on that structure. Supernova, we have up to 8 kids playing on that, and the Universal Carousel is also up to 8 kids playing on that. The 2 additional bays that would not be under the port in place in the first phase are just your traditional belt seats, because I do feel that those are very important to also keep on a playground. So we have 4 belt seats with the anti-wrap. The anti-wrap will then allow it so that if somebody decides to take the swing and they throw it over the beam and they try to wrap it around there, it will automatically correct and come back down to a seated position. So your maintenance department will appreciate that they don't have to go out there and unwound the swing seat when it's not school use. All right, so let's take a look at these structures a little bit more in depth. Here's some photos, and I'm going to show some videos. One of the things I would do want to highlight is Compan is a company that is based on research. So we do a lot of research in our production of our pieces. Usually take about 3 to 5 years to come from a prototype to a piece that we put out to the world to sell this. So I will point out on the Supernova, you'll see that there's a green little hash mark that's on that rotomolded plastic. It originally was not there. When we put it into our prototype school, which was just a university that we used to test our equipment to see if it's really going to do what we think it's going to do, one of our users, a child, came up to our design team and he said, "Hey, I love this piece, it's great, but I can't count how many rotations I've been on this." So he said, "Can you make it a different color?" Absolutely. So it interjects that competition that kids naturally want to have, whether it's with themselves or with others, but they can count now how many times they've been able to spin on that structure. Same thing too with the Universal Carousel. We need to make sure that we are designing this so that kids can effortlessly roll out onto it, that they can be sitting on the bench, and that kids can be playing on the outside, as you'll see in the video. So hopefully these are not going to be super loud, depending on the volume. Sorry, I'm trying to find my cursor. There it goes.
My favorite bit of the playground is the roundabout because I go to my more wheelchair on it.
The inclusive wheelchair carousel excites all children and provides a fun and thrilling experience of spinning.
Cool. It's ability of children together and it's amazing.
The open design makes it easy to enter unassisted with a wheelchair, and there is still plenty of space for many to play at the same time.
The big entrance makes it really easy to go on and off. And even for the seated position, that's the reason why the seated position right next to the entrance.
While spinning, children train their sense of balance and space, but also social skills. For example, listening and negotiating the speed of spinning help develop children's empathy and cooperation skills.
And but it was really fast and I just really enjoyed it because of the speed.
By pushing or pulling, children and parents can easily control the speed from the outside. The handrail position gives space for children to have one foot on the carousel and push it like a scooter.
It's pretty accessible and I felt myself safe on it. I love it.
Any questions before I show the next video? All right, so here is our next video. This is our supernova. So this sits very low to the ground. It's about a foot off the ground on one side and about 3 feet off the ground on the other side. So one of the things that you will see when kids start to approach this structure, they will often sit on it at first. They'll start to walk on it, and then they start to gain that confidence and that courage to be able to walk on it a little faster, to run on it. They'll make gains. Kids will fall off of this. This is part of play. It's how do you figure out how to stay up on it. So it's that cause and effect. But there's a lot of games that will happen, a lot of interaction. And I always refer to it as a place that social capital can kind of grow here too. Because you'll get a lot of kids that maybe in the classroom, they don't hang out a whole lot, but on the playground, they find common interest in the way that they play in the playground pieces. So this is a great structure that just invites people of all abilities to be able to play on it. Anybody played on this in the Tipton City Park? Yeah.
You haven't?
Yeah.
I thought you had. Oh.
Okay, well, here's my little secret that I always tell people. If you get on there and you want to try to beat your kiddo, you're not going to, but you may stay up on it a little bit longer if you lean forward and just as you're walking on it, lean forward. Don't try to lean back. Lean forward. You're still not going to beat them. They're much better than us. Yeah. So, yeah, it's one of those again that they're, obviously they're lower to the ground. Their center of gravity is a little bit more central than as we get a little bit older. Some of us grew a little bit taller in life, others did not. But if you lean a little bit further forward, you'll stay up on it longer. Any questions about the supernova? No? All right, so let's jump into looking at the swings a little bit closer. So here's just the swing seats that I was looking at to be able to provide. So you've got the basket swing I mentioned about having those cables. It actually flexes and moves so that it's not rigid when you sit in it or lay in it or stand in it. You've got the duo seat, which is in the middle, that allows the kids to be able to swing and have that eye contact. And then you've got the traditional belt seat. Our traditional belt seat is actually a little bit more rigid, and so even as an adult, you can sit in that and it doesn't pinch you as well. All right, just quick visuals. And then looking at cost-wise, this is the big, how much does this all cost? So looking at those 3 structures, what is that subtotal with freight was the installation, looking at doing an Omnia purchase. So you can do a direct purchase via Omnia. So there is some savings that is there. And then with the port in place, we're doing about 2,600 square feet of port in place. We would keep your existing rubber mulch in that other portion of the playground. And the port in place would kind of bevel down so that hopefully the port in place will be maintained against the rubber mulch by your maintenance facility so that there is not a valley. So they would have to just make sure that that doesn't get displaced and kicked over time. And then doing a simple drainage, we just want to make sure that the area under the port in place drains really well so that would daylight out. It would go out to the east of your playground. So that in all comes out to $115,468. There is some costs that the school would absorb, which would be the removal of existing equipment and the rubber mulch in that area. So that's not included in this, just so that you guys could have that ability to in-house provide that. Absolutely. Yep. So we would just need to make sure that that drainage plan, we want it to be outside of our footings, so we would have a very clear understanding of where that would need to lie. Yeah. And it's a simple T corrugated pipe that would just go out and daylight out. Yeah. 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 Yeah, so we anticipate that these pieces are going to last decades if properly maintained. With all playground equipment, there needs to be maintenance involved, so tightening of bolts. It's getting played on, 365 days a year. So part of your maintenance is to go out there and have your team inspect the equipment and be able to tighten down those loose bolts as they come just with movement of play. That will happen. It's natural. And as long as they maintain it, it's going to last for decades.
Was there a warranty time? I mean, decades isn't very specific.
It depends. So on all of our, like our galvanized steel posts, that's a lifetime warranty. Our HDPE panels, which is, we'll see that on the roted molded plastic, as well as the roted molded plastic would be the Supernova, that part that they stand on. That's a 10-year warranty on that. This area of Indiana and Illinois was the very first compan agency in the United States. I come across playgrounds that have been in the ground for over 25 plus years. So I think that speaks very well to our equipment and how long it stays in ground and being used on an everyday basis. These are a 10-year warranty on the panels as well as the rotomolded plastic. On any of our rotating pieces, that's a 5-year warranty on the ball bearings. Thank you for asking that, because I was getting ready to go into that one. So Port in Place has a 5-year warranty on it, and that is the standard warranty kind of across the board for Port in Place. With Port in Place, it is highly recommended that you do a roll coat binder to it. For a playground of this size and the use of it, I would recommend it every 2 years. That is a service that we can provide. It is an additional cost, and it depends on what the aliphatic binder cost is at that time and the size of the playground space that we are doing. So there is it's anywhere, it can be from $3 to $5 per square feet. And it's, again, just depending on what that binder cost is at the time. Plus, you also have the labor involved in that as well, too. The area has to be really clean, so they're going to power wash it and make sure that there's no debris on it, because it's glue. That binder is glue. So anything that is on there, if they roll that binder out, it's going to be stuck to it. So leaves, if there's gum that's on it, everything has to be removed. Yes, for just that third that we showed for that blue area. Now, to do this in phases, Port in Place is your best surfacing option. There is another surfacing option. I'm going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But to do a playground in phases and be able to provide a unitary playground surfacing, Port in Place is the best solution for that. And under the Port in Place, I didn't mention this, whether you know it or not, underneath your current playground Port in Place, there is stone aggregate. So the part that you see, the color part that you see, that's just there for aesthetics. It's just the pretty part. The part that protects a child's head, it's called the SBR. It's underneath that. And that thickness varies based on the critical fall height or the highest designated play surface that a kid can be playing on that. Then underneath that is stone aggregate. So with Port in Place, we are able to stagger the stone to make up the difference. So like your spinning pieces, they have only a 3-foot critical fall height on the Supernova. There's not a critical fall height on the carousel, but we have to use the minimum Port in Place that is on there. We're going to do more stone under that area to make up the difference for underneath the 8-foot swing. We need to have more of that SBR. So it's going to look level and flat, but underneath we have more stone in places that we need to have it so that we can use the least expensive thing to make it flat, which would be the stone versus the SBR. Right. Any questions about this cost? Let's look at phase 2, phase 3. And as I mentioned, another surfacing option. So for future phasing, we looked at the other 2 structures that could be added as well as the Port in Place. We're looking at the gray area. I'm showing that we could possibly do the mega deck, upper deck, with it's a little bit of a custom slide structure. I changed out a few things on it, but it's pretty close to our standard structure. It allows kids to still get that option to be able to do slides, more traditional play. There's a lot of ground level play as well. And then we have the big Explorer Dome that I would love to be able to put that here in your playground. This structure by itself holds over 50 kids playing on it. It also has a STEM curriculum as well as your Supernova too. So if your science teachers or your PE teachers wanted to come out and do outdoor classroom on the playground for additional recess time, if that's allowed, then they would be able to have that STEM curriculum packages to be able to distribute to your staff so that you guys could be able to do that as well. This structure is fantastic because it allows for kids to play 360-degree play philosophy. So there's no starting or stopping point. Kids can, again, be able to interact with it from the ground level, or they can decide to climb through it and up it and around it. And there is quite a bit that they can do on that structure. So let's dive into the mega deck a little bit here and see it. So we've got 3 slides on this. We actually have a double slide and then a taller slide at the upper deck that's a little bit longer. And then on the back side, you see it's a curly climber that allows kids to climb up it and slide down it as well. So it builds their vestibular system, which is amazing. And you also have the accessible stairwell. And then here is just a rotational view, just going around the site so that you can see it. We also have a little play shelf hammock that's at the bottom too there, where kids can sit on it, they can lay on it, they can lay prone on it and sway back and forth. It's difficult to see in the rendering, but there's actually a chain that actually holds that belt down, so there's a little bit of a sway, but it's not going to get that same true throw motion that you get on a swing. So a little bit of that sway, but reducing of that capacity just because of that chain that is below there. And then, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back here too. And then we have the U-net, so the kids can again start to climb up the net and go into the structure, whether they decided to go through the stairwell or if they wanted to climb on the outside of it. Same thing too. They can use that curly climber that I mentioned as well too. And then we have some play panels at the ground level as well. And this structure by itself can hold up to 29 kids playing on it. Normally it comes with the banister bars. I like to switch it out to the longer slide that you had saw. Questions about the mega deck, upper deck?
Is this basically the updated version of what we have out there currently with the kind of, I'm going to call it the swinging bridge kind of?
Yeah, excuse me. So it's taking the footprint and reducing it down, so it's not as linear, but it is vertical. Yeah. And here is an example I did up in Culver, the town of Culver, at their playground, where it's a lighthouse theme, but I wanted you to see the size of the structure and what it looks like. And they have port in place that's underneath here, obviously with a land, water, sand theme. So the Exploradome, I can't say enough about this structure. I love it. I use it a lot in schools just because it has such a great play option, a lot of play value within it, but also that play capacity. It really gathers, sometimes half the kids that are on a playground at a time. So this structure, we can look at this 360 degrees here. So you've got this rocket tube that the little boy is climbing up. It is not a slide. It's actually for them to be able to climb up. Now, can they slide down it? Yes, but it is not a traditional slide. It doesn't have the slide walls on it. So they can still be able to decide how they want to play on it. The easiest way to actually enter this structure is there's a ladder bridge. You can kind of see it in the back there. That's the easiest way to enter into the structure. The hardest way to enter in the structure, and I've been doing this for 12 years and I still cannot do it, is to try to climb on these vertical posts. They're actually not posts, I'm sorry, the vertical cables that are there. And I'm going to pass around some of those cables that we can look at. What you don't see in this picture is that the disc that the little girl in the pink pants is standing on, that disc actually rotates. So when the child engages that structure and they're trying to climb up on it, the first little disc that they come to at the bottom, which is black, it's fixed, it doesn't move. But then we add that complexity, that unpredictability of play, and that disc will now turn and move. So now this child would be engaging her core, her lower body, her upper body, as she's trying to climb up this structure. It's not easy to do, which is very challenging, but also too, the kids can decide that they can try to climb up on both of those if they have the arm span and the leg span to do it. I have seen kids do that. I, again, cannot do that at all. And then within it, we also have a lot of coconut rope. So this coconut rope is pretty thick and allows kids to walk across it like a balance beam. I often find that gymnast kids love it. They also hang upside down from it. This structure, again, is designed 360-degree play philosophy, so there is no wrong or right way to play on this. But every time that this structure is engaged with the children, it will be played on very differently because it's responsive. So those cables are always moving and flexing. So if today you go out there and there are 30 kids playing on it, it will respond differently than the next day when there are 40 kids playing on it, because it's always in constant motion. There are kids that you're going around and moving around. So it's very non-traditional, unpredictable play, but a fantastic structure that allows kids to have that freedom to be able to figure out how they want to interact with it, and whether they want to continue to ascend up and go a little bit higher, or if they want to kind of stay at that lower portion where the coconut wave ropes are. So looking at the cable, the floorboard, were the original inventor of the cable, and they hold the patent on it. So this is why our cables last longer than anyone else in the industry, 7 times longer than anyone else in the industry. It takes a bolt cutter to cut through these. So as I tell people, I have these in the city of Indianapolis in areas that are prone for vandalism. They have withstood the test of time there because most people are not carrying bolt cutters around to cut through this. It's also very difficult for it to be tagged or to be written on because there's not a lot of surface there. In the middle of these is a center steel rod, and then wrapped around that is 6 rods with polyester nylon. We then twist it and run a magnetic infusion through this material. It congeals and becomes one, and it's really important because what you don't want to occur is that material slipping back and forth internally, and that it then starts to break and fray. We don't want that to happen. We've got a lot of weight-bearing capacity that is on these structures. Again, it can hold up to 50 kids playing on it. That includes adults as well, too. And so we don't want that to break down. The other portion of it that makes it patent is our S-clamps. So our cables, factory installed, never touch each other. So you never have external friction that is occurring. So very important, longevity. This is a big expense for your school, and so you want to make sure that you're using the best quality materials, and CoreCord is the best. We're thankful that we purchased them in 2005. They were a separate company from us, started same time, but they were purchased in 2005 from Compan. Cable-wise, obviously, with Tipton, with looking at the colors of the Tipton Blue Devils, probably would want to do the blue cables. It will also have a beige color that's in there. We want to have 2 different colors. It allows kids to be able to see that depth of the nets climbing throughout it. And of course, the Cocoa Wave only comes in the 1 color. There will be a green play shell seat in there, but this year we now can offer that that green play shell in a different color as well too. So if we wanted to change that color, we can, or you can leave it green or do a different color. If you guys want these, I'll leave these here to play around. All right. So looking at the size of this structure, I love this picture because you can see that you've got an adult that's over to the far left-hand side, and you've got a varying array of children of different heights as well as different ages playing on the structure. As I mentioned, you can get up to 50 kids playing on it. And so there's a lot of, you can see a lot of lower segments of it that the kids can interact with, and then they can start to ascend and to climb up to it. There's even a part underneath there that you can do monkey bars. So that is a challenge that most 3rd graders really strive for, is to get that upper body ability to be able to cross the monkey bars. Same thing, they can do that underneath, kind of where that little boy is that's standing on the Cocoa Wave, the Cocoa Road there. Any questions about the Explorer Dome? Yeah. It's 13 feet 4 inches tall, but the critical fall height, the highest designated play surface that the kids can play on, that they would potentially fall from, is actually 9 feet 10 inches.
So have you guys done studies for injury rates?
On this structure?
Yeah.
I don't think we've done studies on like this structure itself on
Right.
injury rates, but I have this in a ton of schools and a ton of city parks. And I've been doing this for 12 years, so I've not had any sort of call on it. It's, you know, there are swings that are in the surface of, I don't necessarily know your swings, I can't remember off the top of my head how tall yours are, that have a higher critical fall height because they're a 12-foot beam that goes across, that kids could actually fall from a 12-foot area versus on one of these structures, 10 feet or they're less, so 9 feet 10 inches.
Jason, I'm gonna put your rate at 100.
Yes. Why not? I'm not sure it'd hold me anyway.
Absolutely. I will tell you that when I first presented this, when we put this in a school, it's actually an intermediate school up in Lafayette. When we first put this in there, the principal asked me to come in and to talk to the recess proctors because they were afraid that the recess people were going to limit how the kids played on it. So I actually went in and educated the recess proctors on how to allow the kids to play on this. Kids will self-regulate themselves. So they will come out and they will often just at first kind of walk. Look at it. Then you've also got that group of kids that is fearless and they will start to climb. But kids realize very quickly what they can and cannot do. And they're going to test that envelope. That is a normal part of development. That is why we design equipment so that there is a little bit of risk. We need to have risk on playgrounds because it associates them to be able to make good decision-making skills. But then as adults, we have that ability to say, okay, this is a good idea, this is not a good idea. So playgrounds are the perfect location for them to be able to have those options to be able to decide, should I play in this, should I not play in this? This has been fully vetted through, it's called IPEMA. It's an independent company that actually assesses the structures to make sure that they are meeting the current safety standards for the United States. So it's not only just ASTM certified, it's also IPEMA certified. So it meets and exceeds all the U.S. regulations and the global regulations because we are a global company. And so it is actually in all of our countries that we service throughout the world. The ball looks really cool, but it's like, will they actually go? Yeah. Advertise. Mr. Johnson has assured us that maybe she will come in and educate her. Yeah. Yeah. We want to get this equipment and have all the possibilities. Yeah. Yeah. And again, kids need the option to be able to self-regulate. So they will sit back and they will sometimes just watch how it's played on and decide, can I do this, can I not do this? And then sometimes it takes a few weeks or a month for them to gain up the courage to do something on a structure they've been watching their friends do. And that's totally okay. So they figure it out. And so one of the things when we're designing playgrounds for schools that are going K through 4th, K through 5th, I need to make sure that I'm also designing for that progression of play. So I want to make sure that if you're in 1st grade, you're playing on this structure completely different than how you play on 8th grade. You want to have that progression so that it's not static, it's not static. So that's what you will see that a lot of the younger kids will at first, maybe this is a little intimidating, and that's okay. Because they're going to go play on the mega deck, and they're going to go play on the spinning pieces, and they're going to watch how kids are playing on the bigger structure, and they're going to start to figure out, I can do that. I'm going to try this. And they're going to figure out, okay, maybe my route to go on this is through that rocket tube. I'm comfortable climbing on that because it's a little bit more material for my foot to stand on. Versus the rope, that's smaller. And as I mentioned before, it's going to flex and it's going to move as kids are playing on it. So they may not have that confidence quite yet of being able to stabilize themselves when they're playing on it, and they're going to watch and they're going to learn. I love this piece. I cannot say enough about it. I do encourage you. I have a lot here in central Indiana. So if there's locations, since it is the summertime, take your kiddos and go play on it. Go play on it yourself. Climb it. Get on the structure. Don't be afraid of it just because it is designed for kids. You don't have to stop playing just because they're no longer a kid. So let's look at options of pricing. Now, as I mentioned before, we could do this in 3 phases. If we did the mega deck and we did the additional port in place, we're looking at another phase of that. That cost comes around $139,000, we'll call it. These are based on current prices, by the way. If we did the 3rd phase, which would be the completion of your playground, that would be adding the Explorer Dome and doing the additional pit that would be underneath the Explorer Dome in your existing parkour structure. That would be at $173,000, we'll call it. Combined all 3 phases, here is your price, the tag of what that would look like. Now, again, current pricing. Say that we're able to now do this all in one. I wanted you to see what that cost savings is because there's about $120,000 to save it if you're able to do it in all one option, one phase to do it. Again, the PIP has a 5-year warranty on it. The second option, if you're able to do it in one option, is our Forever Launcher. I love this. Reach unitary playground surfacing is a 15-year prorated warranty. The maintenance on this is very minimal in comparison to your port in place because your port in place, as I had mentioned, you should be doing a roll coat on it, especially in a school, to maintain that so that it is going to last for as long as possible. With artificial turf, this is a little bit different than your football fields, just FYI. So it's a lot more material, less infill. So it actually uses little tiny rubber infill that gets deep down into the thatch, and you'll see it at first when it goes on there and it shakes down into there. So it's not going to come into your school. The kids are not going to pick it up, and it's not going to migrate in their shoes or their socks or anything like that, which I know that the rubber mulch probably does currently. Just like with the port in place, we have a pad, a shock pad to protect their head underneath there. With the artificial turf, we do one thickness throughout the entire playground. I do not stagger the pad. So our most critical fall height that we have on our structure is a 10-foot critical fall height with a 3-inch pad, and it's underneath our stone as well, underneath there. Requires the drainage as well too. This is a triple backing to it, so it is fantastic because even if a child tried to pull this out, it's not going to because it is triple backed and stitched in there. So longevity wise, it's going to be very good for your solution. It does look like grass, but the really cool thing about this is that texture. Kids love to feel it, touch it. It looks natural. But I love it for this longevity and I love it for the 15-year prorated warranty. What I haven't mentioned too is that my install team, they do for the first 5 years, they come out and they check the seams, they check the perimeter boards, they add any additional infill twice a year for the first 5 years. So going back to your port in place is a great viable option as well too. Within that first 5 years, they're providing you warranty that's no additional cost, being able to come out and service that for the first 5 years twice a year. And then after that, if you would like to continue that, we can set up a service plan.
What's that estimate cost? Yeah.
It depends on the size of the space, but we're looking at that together and kind of figuring that out. So I would say that it's probably going to be less than $2,000 for them to come out and to do that. Is that something that you would have to do twice a year? Probably not. Maybe just do it once a year. Yeah, in the summertime when the kids are not. It does come in different colors. I do prefer the green color. I think it's just more natural. I mean, I've done colors too. I just like the green best, and I think it would really pop the blue of the playground pieces. Any questions about that? Would you like to feel this? Pass it around. It is. Yeah. Oh, let me also talk to you about this too. It's antimicrobial and it's anti-static. So anti-static is really important because it actually has been independently tested, kind of like how the playground equipment gets independently tested. This has been independently tested and verified that it is truly anti-static. Where the static comes in is your plastic. So anywhere that there is plastic, it can generate static. The important thing is that we want to try to minimize that because if you have any children with cochlear implants, that can throw off their cochlear implants. So we try to minimize the static on playgrounds. Port in place will help that, or I'm sorry, Forever Lawn Turf will help that.
So this is not a plastic? What is this material?
It's nylon.
It's not one.
Yeah. And
Well, I missed, what is the $2,000 a year? Is for them to come out and just check it?
So yeah, so they would go and they would check all the perimeters because it's 15-foot rolls. Think about like carpet. It's 15-foot rolls. It's a little different than your football fields. Your football fields are sewn on where the seams are. This is different because we use 2 different fastening systems. It's kind of like Velcro. You can see the underneath of that is soft like Velcro would be. And then their seaming tape is actually the loops on the other side. And then they run glue between the 2 seams as they come together. So it's a mechanical and a chemical fastening system that they have. So they will check those seams and make sure that there's no pulling up or any areas where kids decided to try to separate the seams. The seams are really hard to find, but just want to make sure that there is no separation of it. They'll also check the perimeter board. So just like with carpet, you have a tack board at the end. Same thing too. It's under the turf, but they would be able to check that perimeter and make sure that none of the nails are lifting or anything like that. And then anywhere that there's like high traffic area, so any of your rotating pieces are around those or underneath your slides or your swings, they may add a little bit more infill so that the tents will stand up.
So in the first 15 years, if they find anything, they fix that for
For the
free.
for the first 5 years.
I mean, it's $2,000 for them to come out, but
After the
the
first 5 years. And then we would repair it during that time.
after
Yeah.
the first 5 years.
Yes. First 5 years, it's included twice a year.
Oh, right, then, right.
Yeah. And then after that, should you want to do that, you could look at doing that once a year, once every other year. It just depends on what you guys would like to do.
Okay.
And you mentioned, so if we have a vomit situation, a blood situation,
Yeah.
how is that?
So we have an entire, like, if it's this is how you clean it. If it's this is how you clean it. So there's different ways that we would suggest that you clean it. And then you would just take a hose and then run the water through it because it is drainable. It will permeate through. Yeah. Because these are on playgrounds everywhere. So we know that happens, unfortunately. Yeah. Oops. Kidding. Yes.
Just, so, guys I know you guys have put things in Noblesville. Is that correct? And I just happened to be acquaintances with somebody that works in the department there, and he said that there was a time that somebody has lit fireworks on there. And so, what would that process be in regards to that replacement? And yeah.
Told her that it was a good idea to light some fireworks, and it caused a burn. And just like with Sport in Place, if you ever have an area that it has to be replaced, they want to do it in a circle formation. They just cut out that circle and they put a new circle in there. Now, over time, just like with your Sport in Place, with the UV, the color is going to change a little bit. So you may see that circle. In the early stages, you don't really see it because it's all going to kind of fade. It was relatively new. But, if that happened year 6, you'd be able to see it.
Yeah.
Just because of the dialogue and all the
I just didn't know. I just didn't know how.
fun search.
Yeah.
So we have little like a hopscotch, or we want to put like something in there. We could make it look like it was part of the design,
Yeah.
but we all know that it may have been just because of.
Yeah, I just didn't know how labor intensive it was
It's
to
not.
do.
And the install team, the other thing too, just to kind of go back to that. So the install team for this is actually local here to Indiana. When we're doing the Port in Place, those are skilled laborers that come from other parts of the United States. So when I talk about the cost of doing the roll coat, we not only have the materials, but we also then have the deployment and the skilled laborers that are involved that have to come and do that. So that's why there's a little bit of variability in that price.
I assume the warranty is regular wear and tear, fireworks are not
No,
part of that.
fireworks are not. I'm trying to get that passed, but they haven't, agreed to it. Yeah, yeah, normal wear and tear. And you can do, there is like a little power broom that you can buy. If you guys choose to want to do that versus having us do that post those 5 years. It's very inexpensive for you to buy, but it's something that your maintenance team can come out and refluff the areas that are kind of laying down. That's for your turf, yeah. We just recommend that you only blow it off, just like with your turf out there. Don't drive on it. Had somebody drive on my turf and I about died. The turf is fine. I was like, what? You don't want to remove snow. It'll melt. Really cool thing about this as well too is if the area is shaded, it's just like normal grass. Like it's the same texture. So once there's shade over it, it gets back down to. What is our
Again, I think that we just have to take a look at the budget right now. We have a little over 90,000 left over in the elementary. There may be a little bit more because we're finishing a couple of things up. Maybe the potential of another 30,000 that would be left over from the elementary. Obviously we're going to be too late to do anything for this summer and probably looking at a next summer install. So we do have a little bit of time to figure out exactly what we can afford and what we can do. It also gives us an opportunity to get some of the other projects done to kind of see where we are. We do have some goals with, monies left over in both the middle school and the high school, so I don't want to infringe on those particular projects. So, but I think we do have a little bit of time to make some decisions and kind of see where we can find some dollars.
And if we would do this next summer, is there anything that we can do to hold the prices? Yeah, so we would just need to have that signed by the end of the year. I haven't looked at the calendar to see what that last day of business is for Compan, but we would just need to have that signature, and we just hold it and say we want to release production for June 3rd, whenever school is out. If that is the time that you want us to come and start the installation so that we don't disrupt the normal flow of the school year.
I mean, every student that enters kindergarten and stays here is impacted by
by this playground and plays on it every single day. And it's just my opinion, especially when we can save $100,000 by doing it all at once. And, you know, impacting more students. You know, I think that phase one is maybe 30 kids.
It was 10, just under like 26, I think it was.
26 kids, you know, for $150,000, we're only affecting 30 kids. Like will look maybe a little underwhelming when you see that's what we got for $150,000 versus doing the whole scope. And I just think if we're gonna do it, I think we should do it the right way.
Real quick, just what do you want to mention on the surfacing options? There is a temperature requirement that we have to have for installation. We usually kind of come to the end of that with ported place a little bit quicker than artificial turf. So just keep that in mind so that it sounds like it would be more of a summer installation. But if for some reason we're looking at maybe trying to do the first phase and not do it as one completion, we would need to make sure that we would have everything ready for that ported place by the beginning of October. It gets a little dicey. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. We just have to kind of go by history and know that kind of mid-October is my window of, we may get warm enough days, we may not. Artificial turf, we get a little bit more data that we can eke out to maybe the beginning of November, but it is temperature specific. A lot of it is the glue, and it's just the rolls become very difficult to roll out if it gets really cold and there's any sort of frost that's on it. If you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me via email. Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for coming. Okay, next on our agenda for the work session is a discussion about the Indiana GPS diploma proposal.
Yeah, I think maybe we might postpone this till July, if that's okay. I don't think a whole lot's gonna change. Before that point, maybe we'll have a little bit more clarity. Again, it's, this is an ever evolving process. And, I think there will be some things that will be different. But you're welcome to take a look at the slides. If you have any questions, just email me and I'll be glad to respond as well as I can. But we'll do something more formal in July, if that is okay for everybody.
All right. Last on for our work session are comments from the community. It's Laura Satan.
From the other agenda, I wanted to say something.
Laura, I think you turned it off.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, sorry about that.
You can't see the
Yeah,
light on
there
the
you
Zoom
go.
already.
It's the
Oh,
green
no,
light.
you're
It's the
looking
green
straight
light.
at the black, you can't see around.
All right.
I'll give you the,
Okay.
I can't see mine either, so.
I have a child that's on a 504 plan. Every year it's a struggle. Every year it's a struggle to make sure, you know, educators are aware of it, what exactly it entails, is it being followed, a lot of meetings, a lot of follow-up, a lot of involvement. And I have to say, the freshman year, for the first time ever, I had a teacher call me first to ask, how can I help? I don't know if we can say a name, but I nominated this person for Teacher of the Year because it literally blew me away. And just by that one act, my child went from a C- and finished with straight A's. So I have to tell you, it makes a difference when you have teachers of that quality that actually believe in how it used to be, like the strong partnership between parents. You know, teachers are aware of 504 plans are a lot different than IEP plans, but they work when it's a partnership. And it wasn't an English teacher, it wasn't a math teacher, it was just a teacher who wanted to make sure the student was taught and incorporated the same concepts with other students in the class that were just on, 504 plans. So I think it's important we recognize those extra steps and continue to encourage it because it is a battle for parents whose child this, affects, where you have to constantly be in contact. You're worried, is it being followed? Is it being adhered to, kind of thing. And so I wanted to share that because that is the kind of quality of teachers we have. So I just wanted to tell you something good.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was encouraging.
Turn this off now, or do you want me
Sure.
to leave it on?
Yeah, turn.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn the public works session and our regular board meeting will start at 6:30. to order our Tipton Community School Corporation regular school board meeting. Tonight, I will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and our vision statement, and Eric Underwood will lead us. Thank you. Okay, let's start our meeting off with a little bit of tell me something good. What have you seen in our school, our corporation, our clubs, athletics? What do you have to talk about tonight?
I'd like to congratulate Dr. Glaze and our school system for working with the city to create a partnership allowing the Babe Ruth baseball teams to play at the Tipton High School fields, and really brokering that relationship so that the school is able to recoup a lot of that expense. The expense being from the lights, trash removal, restrooms, the overtime for the individual on Eric Johnson's staff to do that. Very grateful to the city and our school system for creating that partnership to keep those 13 to 16-year-old boys playing here on their home field. So thank you for that. And thank you to Eric Johnson for always coordinating that and keeping the facility looking top notch. I have a second. Tell me something good. If nobody else is jumping in. I was so impressed with the commencement ceremony this year in every way. It was in Mr. Jaworski's monthly shout out in his board report, but so very grateful for the custodial staff, to the office staff, the guidance staff, our administrators. It was a very well done commencement with the added layer of the gym renovation. That was right on time. And again, another kudos to Dr. Glaze and R.L. Turner's staff and Cincinnati Flooring to make a really memorable and fantastic commencement, and again, to our custodial staff.
I would just like to talk about our jazz band this year. I was fortunate to attend our stage and swing that the Young Originals and the jazz band do every year. My children are part of the Young Originals, but the jazz band just did exemplary. I mean, for the amount of students that are, I think our conductor did her name just let me, so if somebody has it, I can. Mrs. Wallen, she just did a great job, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great night, great night. Anyone else? All right, thank you so much. Okay, next on our agenda are comments from the community, and we did not have any of those, so we'll move into our consent agenda item that we will approve tonight. The approval of the agenda, the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on May 14th, the approval of claims for payroll from May 24th and June 7th, the approval of accounts payable claims from June 11th, our approval of the personnel report, approval to accept donations. In May, we received donations for the Friends of the Inferno, the Tipton County Foundation Grant, Blackwood Giving Fund, and also for All Pro Dads. So at this time, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. On our personnel report, it's got a long one tonight, but for certified staff, we have the resignations of Abby Speck as a third grade teacher at the elementary school, Laura Barthel as the second grade teacher at the elementary school, Beth Wolfert at the elementary, Joel Larison as the assistant principal at the elementary school, Michelle Dunham as the multilingual learners teacher at the elementary school, and Hannah Beeson as the fifth grade high ability teacher at the elementary. Tonight, by recommendation, we have Melissa Henry as the sixth grade math teacher, Nicole Oliver is the fifth grade teacher, and also Bryce Brown is a fifth grade teacher, and Kelsey Mitchell is a second grade teacher. Reassignment of duties are Stephen Dallahan as the special education teacher to developmental pre-K teacher. Lexi Geiger as a 5th grade teacher to a 1st grade teacher. Stacy Angel as a 1st grade teacher to a 2nd grade teacher. Allison Rittberger as a 4th grade teacher to a 3rd grade teacher. Danielle Grubb as a 1st grade teacher to a 4th grade teacher. And Michelle Reynolds as a pre-kindergarten teacher to special education in the elementary school. Under classified staff, we have resignations from Pamela Potteroff as the special education paraeducator at the elementary school, Cheryl Emmert as a kindergarten paraeducator, Mike Belleville as the 3rd shift custodian at the elementary school, Amber Yates as a paraeducator at the elementary school, and Randall Hudson as the Boys and Girls Club bus driver. For recommendations for summer school bus driver are Dixie and Scott Cessna, Tammy Smith, Jim Voss, and then as a jump start bus driver is Kelly Collins, and as that aide is Debbie Smith. Johnny Blair is a substitute corporation bus driver. Rowan Maddox is summer IT helper. And then as a summer bus garage helper is Evan Coe, Aiden Carter, Griffin Johnson, Garrett Glaze, Jack Morgan. As a summer custodian helpers are Scotland Moore, Kaya Dautret Ramirez, Christine Henry, and Noah Walker. We have a maternity leave request for Haley Lineberry as a cafeteria worker in the middle school worker. A reassignment of duties for Sarah Capper as the special education paraeducator to pre-kindergarten paraeducator at the elementary school. And lastly, as ECA staff, a resignation of Cody Stilson as the wrestling coach at the middle school, and a recommendation of Nathan Geiger as the robotics coach for the elementary school, and Kendrick Vester as the head swim and dive coach at the middle school and high school. Okay, with that I will stop talking and let the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Just have a couple of just really short shout outs, honestly, and then we'll get on to our Blue Future Awards, which are actually a little more cooler than what I'm going to talk about. But anyway, okay. So first of all, I wanted to say we've got 150 students that are attending summer school this summer. We have, it's really gone very smoothly, all things considered. We've had a lot of little crazy glitches that have come along the way, but it's gone very, very well. And again, it's always great to see kids in the school. And so once again, a much larger group than what we had last year. So we're glad to see those numbers back and providing some great opportunities for our kids. You may or you may not have known this, but the high school has been without power for actually about the last 2 days because we had to get a couple of new transformers. So I want to give a special shout out to Omni Electric, TMU, R.L. Turner, for their coordination because we could not have done it without them. It was pretty amazing how they went through the process. We believe tomorrow we will have all electricity ready to roll at the high school, and that's pretty amazing. I also want to thank Dan Benefil, Stephen Gingrich, and the THS staff for their flexibility. So we've had to kind of relocate some people. Obviously, all of our technology goes through the high school. So we had to figure out a way to electrify all of our technology with the electricity out in the middle school. So once again, that's my thank you to Stephen and to Dan for problem solving and figuring that out so everything could work. Special thanks to, again, I'm going to echo the TCSE custodial staff for their work and pulling off a great graduation. Again, they had access Tuesday morning and they were able to do their magic that they always do. And I was just really pleased to see how quickly everything got set up. And I just want to thank them for their hard work. Also, about this time last year, we talked a little bit about the Nature Center and kind of a process that we were going to go through for some improvements. We have now completed phase 1 of the Nature Center rejuvenation, I guess. We had Wolfers Tree Service came in. They got rid of some of the underlying brush and different invasive species of vine and whatever. So a lot of good work going on out there, and then we'll be starting on phase 2 here, and whenever we're ready to roll, probably in the fall. Special thank you to our varsity coaches and our admin for attending the Title IX training that we had last week. And that was, again, always good to have that learning opportunity with our staff, and certainly appreciate everybody for coming in the summer to participate in that. And that's all I got.
Mr. Johnson, Mr. Johnson, before you do those, would you be willing to introduce one of our teachers that's with us here tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our new teachers that we're hiring for next school year is Nicole Oliver. She's in, wave your hand, Nicole. She, her and her family moved to Tipton right after the eclipse, wasn't it? It was right around the eclipse. I just remember that. So she has taught for 10 years in Warren Township in Indianapolis. So whenever she moved to Tipton, she has two children that are in our school. She has a son, Lincoln, that is going into first grade, and a daughter, Logan, that's going into kindergarten. So they participated. Logan was in our pre-K whenever they came. So yeah, so we're excited to have Nicole and her family here, and what she's going to do.
Thank you.
All right, the first Blue Future Award I have tonight, I'm going to recognize this gentleman because he's going to help me recognize the rest of our Blue Future Award winners. I just want to recognize Joel Larison. He was our assistant principal for the last 2 school years, and he has accepted a principal position in Lebanon at Perry Worth Elementary School. And Joel's just been so dedicated to our students and staff at Tipton Elementary School, and the number of steps, I would love to calculate the number of steps, not only in a day, but in a year. I'm sure that he has plenty of, because he is everywhere in our school. And so I just want to thank him for the last 2 years being my admin partner and just being a true champion for kids. Joel? All right. So our first student that we want to recognize tonight, and these are all students that received end of the year awards for fifth graders at Tipton Elementary School. This first award is the Kind Kid Award. This award is voted on by students, by the peers. And so I wanted to read a little paragraph that this student's teacher wrote about her. This student is always willing to help anyone with anything. If someone is not sure what to do, she is right there offering encouragement. I was able to ask the class specifically what was best about this student. Many people said she cheers people up. She's respectful, she checks in with people when they are sad, and she is very inclusive. As her teacher, I have been able to witness these characteristics and the positive conversations or smiles that are the result of these actions. I am so proud of this student and her kind heart. When you get her laughing, it's contagious. And that was written by Mrs. Hannah Beeson, fifth grade teacher, and this student is Zoe McMahon. And the plaques that you see, these are second award is for our Extra Mile Award. This is an award that goes to a student that may have overcome a challenge or has overcome challenges throughout their educational career. I'm going to read this. This student's name is Braxton Jonathan Wade Braxton. I tried to read it at the 5th grade awards day by replacing his name with pronouns, but it just got too confusing. So I'm just going to read it as written. So for the past year, this is by Lexi Geiger, his classroom teacher. For the past year, I've had the pleasure of being a part of Braxton's life. While he may have been a student in my classroom, I found he has been the one to teach me. He approaches each day with a positive attitude, always taking on every challenge set before him. His kind and sensitive heart has made him a compassionate individual with the ability to be there for his peers. To know Braxton is to know that he is a counselor. He exudes strength and continues to overcome obstacles that would knock down even the strongest among us adults. This year, Braxton was faced with yet another obstacle, causing him to have an extended absence from school. He faced this obstacle with courage and strength, showing myself and his fellow peers what it means to take life's curveballs and hit a home run. During his absence, I had the pleasure of getting to meet virtually with him. During these meetings, he was always so attentive, motivated, and ready to learn. In fact, when our sessions would end, you could feel that moment of disappointment in him, wishing it could continue. He returned without a second's hesitation and picked up right where he left off. If you ever find yourself in need of some inspiration, look to Braxton. If it isn't his infectious smile, then his incredible strength and determination will be enough to fill your inspirational tank. I can think of no one else more deserving of this award this year than the incredible Braxton Johnson. You get it? Yep. All right. Third award, this student wasn't able to make it tonight because she's at church. So I'm gonna just read. This is for the Pride Award, and this is the second year for the Pride Award. It used to be called the Strive Award, and then the Strive plat got filled up. So we said, hey, we're really focusing on Pride, so let's call it the Pride Award and start a new plaque. So this student is Lily Watson, and this was written by her teacher, Lexi Geiger. As educators, it is our job not only to teach the content to our students, but I would argue more importantly, what it means to be a good citizen. These skills help prepare our students to go out into the world and claim their place. What that place looks like depends entirely on the student. It is our job to be there and help them along the way. Be the safe place for them to fall and the one to always offer the second chance. Ms. Lily Watson is a model good citizen both in and outside the classroom. She has a servant's heart that is always looking for the next opportunity to help. This year I was blessed with a class that was full of servant hearts, and I feel this helped Lily be able to fine-tune her skills and grow in the process. I often preach to my students that it is never the mistake or unfortunate circumstance that define us. It is our response that shape who we are. I have seen Lily firsthand grow in this department. She's often advocated for herself in times where she felt down, never shying away from her responsibility in the situation. She has always identified her reality, not shying away from her part in it. What she could have done differently, and then turned around and took action growing in the process. She truly immersed herself into our community, jumping at every opportunity to join any club or group offered to her. Her dedication to K-Kids, choir, community theater, and track were only a few examples. I have complete confidence that when Lily gets the opportunity to claim her place in this world, that she will do so with kindness in her heart and love in her soul. That's Lily Watson.
you don't know, I'm Mr. Leach, I'm the high school principal, and I have the honor of recognizing 3 of our spring sports athletes for the Blue Future Awards this month. I'll go ahead and have Cooper Altair, Caleb Barr, come on up. These 2 gentlemen are part of our track and field team. Before I go through all of their accomplishments this season and at Tipton High School, I want to take just a minute and say I could also have an award for their coaches, Mr. Richard and Mr. Worthington. If you're ever around their practices or in the hallway when they're moving around, they're really building something that I think is pretty special. Just from a culture standpoint, these kids are in and they're working early. I know I saw this guy up in the weight room. I mean, probably every season, getting ready for this season, and I know Caleb was doing the same in his event. So those 2 guys are doing excellent work with the track and field program. So first, I'd like to recognize Cooper. He's really fast, and he can run fast and go over things. So this year, Cooper won the indoor. He broke 60 hurdles record 3 times for indoor track and field, and he finished 3rd at indoor state, which is higher than any other Blue Devil that has ever competed in that season. And that season takes place before they do their regular track and field season. He also won the 110 hurdles and the 300 hurdles at every invite his senior year. Okay, so every time we put it out there, okay. And then in the 110s, he was over his career, he's been a 1-time conference champ, a 1-time sectional champ, and a 2-time regional qualifier. And then in the 300s, he was a 2-time conference champ, 1-time sectional champ, 3-time regional qualifier, and then this year qualified for state, where he finished 14th overall in the state of Indiana. So Cooper Altair, really fast. And then Caleb, well, I hear he's also fast. He's really fast at running, jamming and pulling the ground, and like flipping himself over really, really high thing. So in indoor pole vault, he broke his record 3 times and finished 5th at indoor state. And then he also broke his outdoor record 3 times, was a sectional champion, where he broke the record as well. And I believe the top height was 15 foot 3 inches. So it's as high as he got. So I mean, like, I don't know how tall these are, but it seems like pretty close. But anyway, really high. So 15 foot 3 inches. This was his 2nd year to qualify for regional. He finished 2nd, and then he qualified for state, where he reached the podium with a 6th place finish. So Caleb Barr, everyone. And I also just want to point out, because when I asked Mr. Richard for information about these guys, he also wanted me to point out that these guys were on the indoor 4x2 relay team, and he refers to them as the GOATs. Well, and so these guys have been excellent this year. Good. All right, Gavin, come on up. Gavin's even dressed for the part right now. He just got done. Okay, so Gavin is a senior on the golf team, and I thought it was important to recognize all the accomplishments he's had over these 4 years at Tipton High School. He is a 2-time winner of the Tipton Howard County Attorney, winner of the 2024 Twin Lakes Invitational. He placed 4th at the Adam Schenck South Knox Invite. He's a 4-time Hoosier Conference All-Conference. He's been a 4-time regional qualifier, and when I actually nominated him, he was a 1-time state qualifier, and then he got some excellent news here the last couple of days that made him a 2-time state qualifier. So he's actually competing in the state tournament, finished the opening round today, and he'll go back tomorrow. Sitting at 4 over after today and 5 for 18, so some real potential to make some movement and make some noise in the state tournament. But I've also seen, I've had the benefit of watching Gavin since I think 7th grade when I was in the middle school at the AD and watched him play at that level and all the way kind of through. And I know the work that he puts in during the school season, but more importantly, all the times outside of it in order to reach the level of athlete that he's done in the golf the community. Go above and So, Gavin,
So I would like to applaud the parents for raising great human beings. Great job. Good luck, Gav.
If you were recognized this evening with a Blue Future Award, you are welcome to stay for our meeting, but you are also, if you're just a guest tonight, feel free to leave if you don't care to attend the remainder of the meeting.
Laura stays. Thanks, buddy.
You ain't sucking.
I don't even like you. I was talking about your wife. She raised a good human being.
sounds more like
Yes.
Okay, next on our agenda are department reports, which we received in our packet. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, and then financial report. Do you have that?
That's gonna be me. Yeah. Obviously, Brooke is not here. She's on a much deserved vacation in Montana. Oh, so anyway, so our balance in the education fund is 585,000. Operations fund 1.6 million. Debt service 1.9 million, and then rainy day fund 2.253 million. So we did secure an advance draw for our property taxes from the county. We received 17 million. We wish, yes. 1.7 million for operations, and then 1.6 million for our debt service. Interest came in at around $42,000. And then we'll report in July on the remainder of the tax revenues that we will receive from her in June. So kind of the remaining funds that will be coming in. And then we also will make that first debt service payment. So that lovely balance will go down a little bit. So anyway, still in good shape, kind of chugging along, and starting to recover from the 3-pay month. So.
Does anyone have any questions? We would have saved those for Brooke. Okay, next in our old business, we just have one item. We need to approve the proposed board policies and administrative guidelines. Those were included in your packet. I need a motion and a second to approve the policies.
Second.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, that passes. Okay, under new business tonight, we first of all need to approve the student handbooks. In your packet were the updated student handbooks for the 24-25 school year. All handbooks have been updated to meet new legislative requirements from the Indiana General Assembly. It is our recommendation to approve the handbooks as written. I need a motion and a second.
Go ahead. Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay. Approval of student handbooks. Next, we need to approve the staff handbook. In your packet are updated teacher/staff handbooks for the 24-25 school year. It is our recommendation to approve the handbooks as written. They are delayed right now, but will be uploaded early next week. It's okay. It's good. Then if someone's looking for one, they know. Okay. Need a motion and a second to approve the staff, the staff handbook.
I have motion to approve the staff handbook for 2024, 2025.
I'll second that.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we had a first reading on some updated board policies. At this time, we don't have to do anything with those, so we'll move on to approving our 2025 budget calendar. The DLGF requires annual approval of the budget calendar by the Board of Trustees. The 2025 budget calendar is in your packet, includes the dates for the public hearing on September 24th and final approval on October 8th. Need a motion and a second to approve the 2025 budget calendar.
Second.
Okay, were there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approve that. Next, we need to approve the 2024-2025 school lunch cost using the Department of Education Paid Lunch Equity Tool. Corporation's range of increase for the 24-25 school year is 10 cents to 45 cents. Historically, our corporation has used the lowest recommended cost increase so not to create a hardship on parents and guardians. A 10-cent increase will result in these cost changes per tray for the high school to $3.30, middle school to $3, and the elementary school to $2.90, effective August 9th, 2024. We are recommending a 10-cent increase in the lunch cost for the 24-25 school year. Need a motion and a second to approve the lunch cost.
I move to approve the 24-25 school lunch cost increase.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next, we will approve the athletic handbooks for the 2024-2025 school year. In your packet, we have updated athletic handbooks for both the middle and high schools. One change to the handbook is the corporation's move to Final Forms cloud-based platform versus the Blue Card process. Final Forms will allow for easy access to medical forms and other important information needed to run to a safe and successful athletic team. We recommend the approval of the athletic handbooks as written. Need a motion and a second to approve those handbooks.
I move to approve the athletic handbooks for 2024-2025.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Give it to Andrea.
Whatever.
She wins.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll approve the non-consumable supplemental curricular materials. It is. Okay. On May 20th, Assistant Superintendent Scott Jaworski shared the Superintendent's Curriculum Advisory Committee's recommended non-consumable supplementary curricular materials list. I'm done now. I'm done.
The list.
The list. Let's go with that. These are curricular material requests for the upcoming 24-25 school year. These supplemental curricular materials will provide students and staff with valuable learning tools for their classes. Many of these items are either required by universities for dual credit courses or renewals of contracts of previously adopted curriculum. The Superintendent's Advisory Committee, made up of teachers, parents, administrators, reviewed the purpose, quality, and value of each of these resources. It is this committee's recommendation for the listed resources to be approved for purchase for the 2024-2025 school year. I need a motion and a second to approve these materials.
I move to approve the non-consumable supplemental curricular materials.
Second that.
Are there any questions or comments?
I think the only comment I would have is I think we need to congratulate our teachers or at least acknowledge them.
Absolutely.
If you read some of the ISBA emails that we get from Texas and Florida and kind of just the bad things that can happen and the terse situations that occur between teachers and administration. This was a very respectful list. It was manageable. It was well done. So Mr. Jaworski, thank you. And thanks to the union folks for the cooperation on all this, because these can go sideways and we didn't. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob, for raising that. Anyone else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we need to approve the SpendBridge contract. We currently use SpendBridge purchasing on a limited basis. We are looking to expand our use of SpendBridge to negotiate the cost of curricular materials, custodial supplies, and Amazon purchasing. Our partners at Policy Analytics highly recommend our extended use of SpendBridge to ensure tax dollars are spent as efficiently as possible. We recommend the approval of the Spend Bridge contract as written. Need a motion and a second to approve the contract.
I move to approve the Sped Bridge contract.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, lastly, we have a resolution to allow us to transfer from the operations fund to the prepaid lunch fund. A fund transfer is needed to balance out the prepaid meal lunch fund to accurately reflect the June 30th balance of accounts held at that time. A transfer of funds from operations to the prepaid lunch fund is necessary to show an $8,456.79 balance for June 30th, 2024. This is approximately $1,000 less than last year. The resolution in your board packet allows for the transfer. Need a motion and a second to approve the transfer.
I move to allow a transfer from operations to the prepaid lunch fund.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. I think that ends our approvals. Are there any other matters to come before the board this evening? Okay, easy enough. Next, couple of calendar items. We have on September 16th as our next advisory meeting, which will be the Personnel Business Affairs. And our next monthly board meeting is July 16th. Make a note of that, as that's a little bit different than regular because of the fair. On July 22nd, our building admin return. That's kind of hard to hear when it's only, summer's just started. But we will keep going if you have to cover yours. July 23rd and 24th is the new teacher staff orientation. July 29th and 30th, the administrative retreat. July 31st to August 1st is summer academy. August 7th is the first teacher workday and the Blue Devil Bash. August 8th is our district professional development day. August 9th is our first student day. And then August 13th is our monthly board meeting. With that, I think I need a motion and a second to adjourn our meeting.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you for joining us this evening, and we will adjourn.